Hello, sir.
Good day.
How are you?
Well, thank you.
Good. Are you well?
Yeah, I'm good.
Even though we went and saw your favorite hockey team in the whole wide world.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, it would have been cool, but at the same time, the girls get to experience something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been cool, but I've seen hockey teams warm up before. Like I've had that experience, so and it was great. The kids came home with some loot and some signatures and some memories, and they're all good.
My jersey, so each of them got, Cale Makar and different Avs players, and I passed my jersey up ahead and nobody got it signed for me because they had to get their stuff signed first, but then the guys lose their patience and then they walk away.
That is true. It's a limited window.
So that's disappointing. But the girls each got one. But Willow's unfortunately has like a rubber numbering on her jersey. And so it was already rubbing off within a few minutes. I'm like, well, if you had just given mine, then we would have permanent. That's okay. No, it was cool. Maya did not cry. She's very upset though, because Cale had come and everyone's like, Cale, will you sign? So he was stopped. So everyone was focused on Cale, and right behind him was Gabe. And Gabe looked so sweet. He was just standing there with his towel, like just waiting. But no, everyone was focused on Cale. And I mean, he's out, right? So he's been injured. And so they probably weren't even thinking. But Maya was totally like Hawkeyes. She's so sad. Like now at home, she's on the verge of tears because she's just like, I love Gabe so much. And it would have meant everything to her. Like she kept talking about how she hoped he was there and wished he would be there. And then
he was.
And the only reason we know he was is because I was videoing. Like we've got pictures and videos, and it's in the background right behind Cale. It's so sad.
She got to meet a ton of the other ones, though. She got to hear Miko. She got to see Nichushkin. She did all right.
Yeah, she did. So it was good. And then we were going down to the bus so we could see them on the bus. But one of the security guards down below got high and mighty. And like the guy who hooked us up, he's an ex-NHLer and he's friends with the coach, with Bednar. It's like, we have an invitation down, but I don't know. The security guard just got all high and mighty.
That's kind of what they do.
So we were not allowed. And then Cale started walking up the ramp from the buses. So then there's other people there, like not even with our group, just people who were randomly waiting on the side. And they're, oh my God, Cale, are you kidding me? But he called an Uber. He was walking up. As he's walking up, the Uber had pulled in.
He's going home.
Picked him up. Yeah.
Going to his house.
I know. It was funny. Yeah.
Cool. No, I'm happy you guys got to go. Would have been cool, but it's cool hearing the stories.
Cool. Well, I have another guest today on the show. Are you surprised?
No.
Stephanie Elliston. She's from Minnesota. Did you hear? Yeah. I had to do a lot of Fargo accents, so I'm not as good as her. But Fargo needs a little bit more of a something her.
Yeah, there was only a couple of times you could hear the Minnesota better.
Yeah, very, very subtle.
Yeah.
Anyway, Stephanie is a certified professional coach and the owner of the Steady Elevation, pairing with businesses and individuals to elevate their potential. She is a self-awareness speaker, DISC practitioner, and core energy coach with intentions of increasing confidence towards the desired outcomes. She's trained to remove the blocks and influences that prevent people from reaching their highest elevation. And the reason why she's on today is she talks about resiliency, which is huge for me. I'm always talking about, our kids needing to be more resilient because we've got such a padded world for them. And so they need to build their resilience. And I would say parents do too. Mm-hmm. So she is going to walk us through the different stages of resiliency and just ways to build our resiliency muscle.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Enjoy. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Love talking about resiliency. It's a topic that is not limited to anyone being or human out there. So important stuff.
Yeah. I'm doing a whole journey of resilience. So yeah, there's a lot to do like in a whole year, and I'm not even going to have enough time in a whole year to talk about it. Before we jump in, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure. My name is Stephanie Elliston. I am the owner of the Steady Elevation. And so what I do is I partner and pair with individuals to really get the obstacles out of their way. And typically that is mindset. And resiliency certainly lives in there because we are known to face change constantly. So talking about resiliency and really breaking that down for my clients has been helpful for them to progress into the goals that they're looking for. So I work with organizations, individuals, parents, CEOs to really help bridge the gap between their goals and what's blocking them. And I've been working in organizations for the past 12 years as organizational development. So it is a lot of development building for these individuals, employees that work in facilities. And one of the ones that I worked in Denver. So I worked in the Denver city and county jails there. And that was during COVID time. And that is where resiliency really started to ramp up because change was happening. The unknown was constantly coming our way. And while everyone was even being furloughed and moved along and maybe, let go of their jobs during that time, that really difficult time, they kept me on because knowing some of this change that was going through, that everyone was going through was so turbulent. And how do we get through this? And how do we really build that resiliency muscle? And so that's what Scott has me talking about it since then, to organizations, to conferences, to networking groups, that really important aspect of being resilient.
Amazing. Maybe before we go on, what is your definition of resilience?
Yeah, my definition of resilience depends on the change that we're going through. So having that high level of flexibility, allowing ourselves grace and recovery during an adverse time. And when I teach on resiliency, I have people fill in the blanks because change can come in so many different ways. It could be good change. It could be really heartbreaking change. So in there, we're still being resilient, whether it's good or bad. So my definition will fluctuate in the adjectives that I use depending on the circumstances.
Actually, that's a good point. I mean, even when we look at stress, there's positive stress. So if you're getting married, right, there's the excitement of getting married, but there's a lot of stress that comes along with that. So positive stress and then more negative stress as well. So yeah, I love that.
I have a story that goes with that. We just recently came back from our spring break trip. And I have something on my hand. It's called an Aura ring that measures my stress and sleep and everything. It's fantastic. It's maybe too much information for parents. I don't need to know how stressed out I am. But I was looking at a normal day, typically at work. It maybe counted maybe 45 minutes of stress. But then while I was on vacation, I looked at it. I was like in stress for 10 hours.
Oh,
And
wow.
don't get me wrong, the vacation was fantastic, but it was a constant use of resiliency of like, what are we doing now? How do we get the kids to get to where they're going? Oh, they're melting down. Now we got to switch and we got to be flexible on when our dinner is, what we're doing for dinner. And so my stress level was very high, but it's about recovery. And that's what I put in my Instagram story. It's not nor good nor bad. It's about how we are aware of it and then the recovery and restoration afterwards.
And that's a huge piece for sure. Do you have any questions?
No, it's been a good intro so far, but no question.
Okay. So I guess maybe where do we start? Just knowing that we as parents can definitely work on our own resilience muscle, but then I think we have to first before we can help support our kids. So where would you say that we need to start on this journey?
Again, it all depends on where they are in the change. But what I do or how I talk about resiliency is a way I break it down. I like to say a lot, breakdowns lead to breakthroughs. So when you think about the levels of grief or the stages of grief, everyone's pretty familiar with those. Okay, we know we're in anger, we know we're in denial, and then we can see the next step that we need to get to till we're in that acceptance space. I mean, we never fully recover from some hard situations in grief, but you understand the stages that you're in. Same thing goes for resiliency. In fact, I do a lot of, big emotions and break them down into more tactical steps. And so that's where I would say is to start Caroline and Andrew, is just to break down resiliency. And I want to go through those steps if you don't mind.
Sure.
Absolutely.
To
Yeah,
break this
absolutely.
down. This is where I tell people, grab some pens, grab some paper, because this is where the good meat and potatoes are of resiliency, to help understand where you are in change. And again, we always need to figure out where, what the change is, and that's going to determine how long we are in these stages and in these steps. Same thing with grief. Is it your pet worm that just died? And you're like, okay, anger, why did that die? And then you're in, acceptance. Or is it a family loved one? And that might take a longer time for you to get through. Same thing with resiliency. Is it a detour in construction? Or was it a diagnosis that you got from a doctor, or a death in the family that is going to cause you to take a long time to really understand that change and be resilient? So we build this muscle by having the stages. And the stages go like this. First, when we understand change, we check in. Now, let me give you the example of me going on that vacation, right? I was constantly having to get through resiliency. So we're on this cruise ship, and right now we're having to check in and saying, okay, there is some changes. We're not able to get into our room right away like we expected. So I'm just going to kind of check in with myself, check in with everybody around me. How's everybody feeling? Okay, we're a little stressed. We're having fun. We're kind of just still in that overwhelmed space. All right. In the next stage of resiliency, once we get past that check-in phase, then we're starting to ask ourselves questions. Okay, well, when will we check into the room? All right, what are some activities we can do while we wait? What else is on our floor? What is it that we need to eat? Any sort of questions that we can start asking ourselves. Remember, we could be in here for 1 minute this stage, or we could be in here for like 3 years. The next stage that I talk about is really understanding the benefits. Okay, we didn't get to check into our room right away, but here's the thing. Now we get a chance to explore. Now we get some time to just see what's going on around the ship instead of, going and unpacking and just staying in our little confined area. I'm understanding the benefits. All right, we get to see the sunshine. We got to see Mickey and Minnie. Maybe they would have left, at a different time. But now I'm starting to understand the benefits. Okay, I'm starting to move forward in these stages. Okay, so checking in, asking questions, understanding the benefits, and then we get into building trust. I'm seeing everybody else get into their room. No one else is carrying their luggage or their big bag. I'm building trust. I think that this is going to happen. I'm going to get to the end of what I'm looking for. I'm having trust that this is going to be completed. Then I have this external motivation. All right, that's the next step. So I'm motivated to go get my bags, get into my room, see everything that's going on the ship, to finally the last stage that I'm in, like the stage of grief when you get to acceptance, is confident and engaged. All right, I'm in my room. I'm here. Now everything has been settled. The expectation that I had in my head has been accomplished. It just took a little bit longer to get there, but I'm here. And now I'm at that end of those stages in that arrow. Now, it doesn't just stop there. Then the next new change comes along and, dinner gets disrupted or someone gets seasick, and we're back at those first checking in, asking questions. It's all about understanding the arrow, having grace that we know that arrow getting to that confident, engaged spot is going to be wobbly. It's going to go back and forth, and allowing ourselves as parents, as humans, to be okay with that. And again, that time frame that I just gave you on this trip is, within 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. But, there's stories where I have a close cousin who just got a diagnosis for her daughter that she has a cancer. She had a tumor in her stomach, and this was only a month ago. And she's sitting in that, checking in and asking questions. She has not even moved to understanding the benefits, as you could probably understand, right? Mm-hmm. So then they take a little bit longer. But understanding that there's those stages, and when you get in one, okay, this is where I need to go next. Small steps, baby steps, into how you get to confident and engaged. That is how I break down resiliency so that people can understand where they might be in the change that they're going through.
Mm-hmm. I definitely would say I go through a lot of resilience stages when we go to the airport. That is usually...
Yeah, my only resilience component is the security checkpoint.
Yeah.
So on that note, so I guess that all makes sense. For people though that struggle, or I guess, how do you prepare yourself to have the ability to get to the benefit component, right? Because I think, to me, it sounds like that's typically where most people would get stopped, right? Mm-hmm. It happens, you're in the middle of the incident. We know people, we ourselves have gotten stuck there. How do you try and
then it's just a downward spiral.
Yeah, how do you try and not only recognize it, but foster the ability or build the skill to create a benefit out of a bad situation quickly and not get trapped there.
Right. It's kind of understanding the opportunities that have been in front of you, right? You could sit there, you could be stuck in this like, why me? I'm always the person that doesn't get the room, blaming other people, the workers. We could sit in that kind of low vibration of maybe like a victim status. We get in conflict too of like, oh, I'm so angry that, the security at the airport is taking so long or makes me undo my belt. It's not even metal. So we could sit in those lower, maybe they're more destructive energies, or we could look at like, well, what's the opportunity ahead of me? Okay, I get to explore the ship, or the opportunity ahead of me is they're going to keep this plane and this airport safer. It is having to switch our mindset. And what you're saying, Andrew, is really true. When we have this mindset of, I had this expectation, it's not meeting it, and now I'm thrown for a loop. We have a choice. We have a choice to sit in that lower, maybe destructive energy, like being frustrated or feeling victim to the situation, or we have the opportunity to move forward. And I'm not saying that there's times where we need to sit in like a victim space, right? Like, let's give my cousin who has her daughter's diagnosed with cancer. She probably should sit in there. It's probably the right spot. That is a really heavy situation. You can sit in that checking in and asking questions. Understanding benefits isn't going to serve you quite yet. So to answer your question, long story short, is that we either have a choice. Are we sitting here because we're choosing to and it's necessary? Or are we sitting in this lower stage of resiliency because it's by default? That's just how I respond. I always get upset when security's taken a little bit longer. I'm not saying that that's what you're doing, but
I do.
is it by default?
Yeah.
That's just how. That's how we trigger, right? Or the airport, you're going to the airport. And is that how we trigger? Like, oh, this always happens. And so I'm always going to respond that same way. We have the choice. And just being mindful of that is going to help you move into the different stages and get you unstuck.
Well, I think taking a step back, did you have more to say? Taking a step back, just thinking about, because it's having that awareness in the first place. Oftentimes our triggers are predictable. Certainly there's going to be things that are unexpected, like a child having cancer, a diagnosis of cancer. I mean, things will throw us for a loop, but maybe for people who are listening, we can just reflect on things that are happening in our life now. Where are we triggered so that we can start applying this with that mindful awareness? Because I think it's easy to get caught, and we do know people who are just stuck and stuck and stuck and stuck. And what do? Right? Like they don't know to think about that. So teachers, I do lots of presentations and talk a lot about behavior management. I'm always saying shift the energy. So if little Johnny walks in, yes, I get to work on my emotion regulation or co-regulation with this kiddo today, right? Or so now Johnny's upset, flipping his desk. Yes, thank you, kiddo. I get to work on this skill. So it's being able to see that opportunity, but we got to get on offense first. We got to be proactive. So maybe for us, we could use, I think applying it to specific examples could be helpful.
Yep.
Any changes or things that we're grappling with that we could maybe apply this.
And while you think of that too, Caroline, what you're saying, and that's what strong, resilient people know as well, is when things continue to happen to them, same thing, and they've gotten through it and they've overcome it, they actually build that resiliency muscle. I'm going to use your guys' examples here. When you go in through the security line, that first time you're like, what is happening here? Why is this taking so long? But the second time you're a little bit more finessed in those stages of resiliency. You're getting through to those maybe stuck spots that you were before a little bit quicker. Same thing with going to the airport. You're getting unstuck a little bit faster. So when you experience it, people have already built this resiliency muscle. You have it there, like a bicep. You just keep on working on it, and maybe you don't even know that you're doing it.
And we know we have to have stressors and adversity to be resilient. If we didn't, we would never build our resilience because everything's coming easy. So I think that's a big mindset shift. Even when we look at top CEOs, the most successful people in the world, they are looking for the challenge. They know challenges are going to make them stronger. And so it's really seeing it as opportunity. One thing I would say though, people who we have so many leaders, spiritual or otherwise, just in positive psychology and mindset and things like that. So many people who have hit rock bottom, right? They have lost everything in their life and now have bounced back. They've changed their mindset. They have this resilience. And the one theme that's consistent with all of them is gratitude. And I think that that's a huge piece that we could be, even if there isn't, anything big and tragic or stressful in our lives now, just creating rituals around that gratitude piece. I think that can be really helpful.
Isn't that impressive on how much that can alter our mindset? And, when I talk to people about resiliency, I share the story that I have met. His name is Dr. Sexton. He is a professor over at Duke Medical, and he specifically focuses on resilience and happiness. And he worked with healthcare workers, this is pre-COVID, healthcare workers for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, they had to write down 3 good things that they had that day. So they had a platform, they had to go ahead and write it in, submit their answers for 2 weeks. After 1 week, he could see an increase in resiliency. And after 2 weeks, he was able to increase the resiliency levels in those healthcare workers from 40% to about 70%. So it was quite significant for just 2 weeks of being in practice and habit of finding the things that brought you joy, brought you gratitude, that you saw awe in. It could be something as simple as a sunset, something as simple as, you had a full refrigerator when you woke up that morning, no traffic, just small things like that where we're practicing recovery, even on good days. Answers your question again, Andrew, is how do we get unstuck? How do we get into that understanding benefits? Because we got to pull from the reserves of our positive mindset. When things are low and tough, we got to pull from some sort of other different energy to build us back up. And as parents, we know our energy can get low, our frustration can get high, change is constant. So where are we pulling this energy for to make some effective decisions in humans out there?
Right. Absolutely. And I think acknowledging this is hard and I know I'm going to get through it and I'm going to look at, different ways of looking at things.
I think there's a conversation between couples as well, right? Because I know when we're in the moment, if I were to look at you and say, hey, focus on the positives, right? Because I think we've tried that at times. It's not necessarily unless it's something that we've discussed as a practice, it comes across as calm down.
It's invalidating.
Right. And so it's trying to find that.
What are the bird songs? Can you hear bird sounds?
No, it's my notifications.
Oh, okay.
It's very peaceful. I don't have. It's not an annoying ding.
Where are all these birds?
Springtime.
But I think that's important because, in a way, if it's understood between both parents that, hey, if I notice that you're seeming stuck, I want to help you try and kickstart that, then it could be helpful. Otherwise, it just is going to be a blow up.
And I think that goes to my point that I just said about acknowledging the hard. And so if we're with somebody else, it's validating and acknowledging. It's easy to get stuck there though, right? And just it becomes a venting and rumination session. And now we're just stuck. So then it's, and now what? What do you need? What support?
Yeah. And we were just talking about that the other day too.
I think
the framing around and.
Probably. Yeah.
And I know you hate security lines and we have to stand on them for a bit. Right? Is that how I do it?
And my family loves security lines now because it's a game on what is going to get mom stopped today, because I get stopped every single time I go through security.
I was just telling some of that today.
Yeah. Last time it was an apple, literally an apple. They're like, it looked weird. I'm like, it's an apple every time I go through.
It's the universe saying that you look sketchy when you travel.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for the listeners, you need to tell them you look very suspicious. You're coming in.
I obviously look like a good law-abiding citizen.
It's amazing.
You're sketchy.
It's amazing.
Well, you guys, I wanted to capitalize again on your points because you're taking my presentation that I typically do right from me, and it's you've got the nail on the head. It's also your support system, your support surrounding. Who's going to help you push through to that confident, engaged space? There's been probably people in our work environments or maybe our neighborhoods that might keep you in that checking in or asking questions or kind of put you in that fear-based and keep you in that stuck spot. Or there's the individuals like maybe your spouse or a close friend that's going to help push you through, help you try to understand the benefits gently and delicately so that you can get to the confident and engaged area and the stages that we're all looking for when we're getting through change. Our support system is extremely helpful when we go through that. My cousin, she writes in this Caring Bridge journals every day. And I think she ends almost 90% of them as I've got such a good, strong support system. Thank you to our friends and family and neighbors who are all just rallying around us in this hard times. And that's what we need so desperately. So,
Yeah.
good point on you too of, when you're in that change spot, when you're upset about that security line, who's the person that's going to get you to the confident engaged? It's okay. We're going to get through this. You're going to get through this time. Now you're going to think about that.
See, we don't do that. We just start laughing and wondering what utensil she forgot in her bag.
The best is peanut butter. And then I load on peanut butter into whatever I can. And before they take my jar of peanut butter away. So, we always talk about one thing, and it's not a change piece, but we're just always stuck in feeling overworked, right? So maybe we could apply the steps to that, just because that's definitely an area where we're stuck. We're just feeling overworked. We're not getting ahead. We're not having fun.
Yep.
So the first stage, I say I've already forgotten them. Acknowledging it's important.
Checking in. We're checking in, we're asking questions, and we're getting to understanding the benefits. What is happening? Why is this happening to us? What are some opportunities here? And we're talking about stuck energy a lot. We've kind of transitioned into that. And I think it's important because you're right, you guys, that happens to a lot of people. For us to get through that arrow, we got to get unstuck. And I do offer an assessment to my clients that shows me exactly where they do get stuck and how often they get stuck. So I have 7 levels of energy. And when I'm talking about that victim and conflict space that they're just sitting in and they're choosing to sit in, that's going to take them away from getting into that space of gratitude, like you had said, Caroline, or joy or opportunity and getting us unstuck. So I see how long they're in that stressful, stuck space and how they can pop up. And I'm not saying we're not going to be there, but how can we shrink our time in there is what's really valuable for parents and anybody in there. Let's shrink our time in stress, shrink our time in that beginning of the arrow so we can get to confident, engaged.
And I think that's a great way just to go back to your original question about how do we even know, just having an assessment like that, just to help reflect on. I think that can be really good to bring awareness. And that's such an important point because we are always talking about moving away. We're just going to sell everything, run away to a tropical island and be done.
Yeah.
But if we don't address and acknowledge and look at the benefits here, it was just like our Langdon house, right? Like we hated it, and let's just go buy a new house. Well, you could be jumping from one fire to another. So it wasn't until we loved that house and learned to love that house, then we were able to go, right?
And in a weird way, it made us more prepared to take on what we wanted to do in this house too, right? And I think kind of what I'm taking away from this is it's the acknowledgement, but it's about preparation too, right? Like I think it's about, if I'm understanding it properly, doing the self-inventory of what it is that you are struggling with, right? Areas that you do struggle way before you're encountered. Because it's like anything, like we've talked about it with kids. When you're in the middle of it with your kids, you're not going to be able to do it. You've got to take a step back. You've either got to enact a plan that you have already in place because you've talked to them about what's going to happen. You've got to have the same kind of conversation with yourself, right? If I get into this situation, what's going to happen? What are my options? Well, I can do this or I can do this. I think it's the same process, really. You're basically taking inventory. You're coming up with a plan. And then in the moment, talking about shrinking it, you're shrinking the time to that realization down because all you have to then remind yourself is, oh yeah, I know what I need to do in this, and it's this, right? And if this is just remembering the positive of it or finding a positive in the situation, it seems like it'll be much shorter, right? Like you'll be able to get there faster. I think it's like anything. It's about preparation, right? Take the time, do the work, put yourself in a position where the emotional piece is as reduced as possible. Obviously, we're talking about an emotionally driven situation, but really just try and get yourself to a point where it's going to resolve itself based on what you've already done the work on.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to use this example and keep moving through the stages, we'll just do it abbreviated. I mean, there's lots of benefits knowing what we don't like, what we don't want to do for our next life, for our next chapter in our life. I think that us being so busy, we've created a really strong tag team system and supporting each other and the family, right? That maybe we wouldn't have got to. So I see that there are benefits, right? That we can absolutely look at this tough situation. We'll love those moments. We do get to go have fun even more than if we were doing it all the time, right? We're not taking it for granted. So those are examples, right? Of sort of the benefit stage.
Right. And then you go into building the trust, which kind of just naturally rolls into it, right? When you're understanding the benefits, okay, you're building the trust because you're in an optimistic perspective of like, okay, I do trust that this change or this adjustment is going to be advantageous for us.
Yeah.
Right.
And potentially that it's not all bad where we are too, right? Like enlisting the benefits right there, I'm like, oh yeah, those are pretty good, right? Like we've got a good network of people. We've got people that we like to spend time with, right? We've built this family unit that could sustain itself if we moved away. Like there's a lot of this that I think without this, we don't have the option to move or accept the difference of a move, right?
Right.
So
And partnered with your preparation too, Andrew, is understanding, like if we can break this down, and I use grief because it's just such a commonly used one that stages. I mean, you would say majority of the people probably see where they're at. Same thing with this resiliency. When you're going through some massive change, and I'm going to say hard change, it's helpful to see tangibly like, okay, I am understanding the benefits right now of moving or changing into this different location. Okay, now I know that building trust is going to be next. And that's kind of like, okay, I'm preparing myself to get to that next stage. Now I'm preparing myself to get to the motivation. See, if you have an awareness and kind of see that tangible of like stage, I think that's helpful. I guess that's my personal opinion, but it seems to have boded well for a lot of people.
I know we're probably really short on time. Anything just for parents who want to help their children. So maybe their best friend has moved away, or, well, maybe we can just use that one, or they're not friends. There's a friendship fire. This friend is no longer in my life. Something like that. I don't know. How could parents help their kids through that?
Sure. Helping kids understand change is probably the best place to start. And so when we talk about change, I use different metaphors. Now you could use this with a kid. Does change feel like a storm to you? It's kind of coming in, it's kind of scary. It's going to be over soon. Maybe there's a rainbow after. Does change feel like a storm right now? Or does the change of your friend moving feel like a roller coaster? Like, oh, I don't know what to expect. Maybe this will be fun because I'll find new friends and then I'll get back in line of, meeting new people. Does change feel like an ice cream cone? You love all the treats. Okay, this friend's leaving. Now I'm going to find a new one. What does that change feel like? Or does it feel like new shoes? There's just a lot of metaphors you could use that might be suitable for your child, just to get them to engage with what the change feels like. And then you can start helping them build their resiliency of how do we get through this change? Okay, if it does feel like a storm, if it does feel like a roller coaster, we know those all end. But in the middle, let's get through that with the stages of resiliency or just by talking it through. But my long answer to your question is have fun with them in the metaphors of finding what a change really feels like for them.
That's a great one. Perfect.
Very cool.
Anything else for you?
Just really quickly, I had, I'm going back to my cousin and her story, but one of her other siblings couldn't quite describe what was going on with him during this change of his younger sister having cancer. He's only in first grade. He's like, what is happening? And his best way to compare it was to the movie Inside Out, right? Of that change and using those characters to feel like what's happening, what's going on. And so kind of, making it achievable for kids to see and to visualize versus how are you feeling? What's going on? What do what does anxiety look like? They can't really articulate that. So finding different metaphors and different ways to put it in their perspective.
Right. Which is good. And kids, do great with metaphors and analogies.
And they're coming up with a second Inside Out where they've expanded the emotions.
Oh.
Anxiety's in it, depression's in it. They've got 3 or 4 new
Embarrassed.
Embarrassed. Yeah, embarrassment's in it.
I haven't even heard that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Looking forward to it. Awesome. Anything left unsaid?
No, that was great. Resiliency is always something that we can keep building. So if you don't have it, you probably already do, but keep building that muscle and practicing recovery even on good days. Go with gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It was great having you.
Yeah, it was good to be here. Bye, you guys.
Thanks.
Bye.